Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. You know what? Let's talk about Nicole for a minute. Nicole and her walk of shame. So she practically stumbles out of the Salem Inn, and she runs into Rafe. You know what she does throughout this entire scene? She lies. She lies and she lies and she lies. At first she lies and she talks about how, I don't remember, she lied about a meeting or something like that. And then she lied about something. And Rafe was like, no, that's not true. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a really bad lie. And then she talked about how she had a meeting. And then, then she told the truth. She was like, well, that was a lie. But the real story is that she got drunk and she wound up staying at the Salem Inn because she didn't want to face Allie and the baby, being all drunk and everything like that. So I was like, okay, so at this point you're just a giant mess. And of course she talks about how Eric decided to stay 3 more months because he really needed to help out the people, and the same crap over and over again. And you know what? Here's the thing. I was going to sit there and say, maybe people should have kind of called her out on the crap. And I feel like they still should. Yes, okay. From the viewer's point of view, to some extent. Nicole did okay. Nicole was like, listen, I want you to go. I want you to sit there and help out these people. But at some point, this whole poor Nicole thing is just like I get it from Ray's point of view. He doesn't want to sit there and make her feel worse or anything like that. So he's like, I can't believe Eric did this. I'm like, Rafe, why don't you actually sit there and call out Nicole for her part too? Because it's not like Nicole was sitting there trying to stop him or anything like that. Like, you let him go after 3 days of being married? You're just like, you were totally cool with him just going to Africa? Like, really? You're totally just okay with that? Okay. But no, he is being sympathetic, and the reason why Nicole did not tell him about what she was really doing is because, she also wants Rafe. So with that being said, she hugs him, and at first Rafe was like, this smells kind of familiar. And of course Nicole made up another lie because apparently this is what this woman does, and she goes back to her house or her apartment or whatever, and she's crying, and she wants to take a shower because she wants to try to forget this whole thing ever happened, but she's not going to be able to do that because the minute that she runs into Xander, he's going to just keep bringing that up. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I think Xander's the type of person that would just wind up telling Rafe just because, he may be in one of his dickest moods, so Nicole's a mess at this point. And the sad thing is that there's a part of me, okay? I'm not a complete dick. There's a part of me that wants to feel bad for her. Her husband's gone. She didn't want to be in the way of what her husband is this calling or whatever. So she tried to be a supportive wife, and now it's just lasting a lot longer than she thought and that she wanted it to happen. Okay? She gets so fed up, so angry, and human nature, she winds up getting drunk. And this isn't the first argument that she had with Eric, okay? This isn't like one argument she decided to just go to the bar and the first person that she saw it. No. This happened over a course of time. So, yeah. Running into Xander. And, honestly tell you the truth, Xander was sitting there dropping some jewels of truth. One thing next to the next, she wound up, being with him. I mean, hell, she can't be with Rafe because, honestly to tell you the truth, she's just too much of a damn coward. But whatever her reasons are, she can't be with Rafe, and she really wants to be with another human being. And I was going to sit there and say something inappropriate, but I'm not going to. But the point is, she's human. Okay? She's human, and so she did something that she regrets. It happens to everyone. So now she feels terrible about it, and she's lying to Rafe, and she feels terrible about that too. Hell, she lied to Rafe a couple of times throughout that course of that scene. So, yeah, part of me wants to feel bad for her. The other part of me is like, Nicole, you did this to yourself. You allowed this man to go halfway around the world. You practically just co-signed off to that, even though you've been married for about a week. Okay? And at some point, you're a grown-ass woman, and you should have told Eric, listen, if you do not come back here at some point in time, this us thing is done. You know? And just broke out with him. You know? Yeah, you would have felt like a crappy person because you know, you broke out with someone who just wants to sit there and try to help out a bunch of people. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're human, you know? You married to this person, you made vows, and this person is not living up to his part of the marriage. So, yeah, that's what's going to wind up happening. And then you can sit there and tell Rafe and just be honest. But of course, if she did that and went the way that I am sitting there saying, then we wouldn't actually have a soap opera. So, but yeah, that's the reason why I do not feel bad for her, even though I want to. Just want to say this. I just want to sit there and say that because I know a lot of times I come across as a dick. What else we got? So let's talk about the DiMera house because it just makes more sense for me to sit there and say it this way because a lot of stuff happens all at once. You got Kate that walks into the room, sees Gabby and Jake just going at it. And so she's like, oh, okay, so this didn't take too long, did it? What's up with that? And she tells Jake and Gabby about Kristen, you know, putting on masks, pretending to be her. And at first they don't believe it. But then, you know, they bring up the whole Nicole thing. And Gabby's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So at this point, Jake feels bad. Because Jake is like, yo, listen, you broke my heart. I was pissed off at you. But now you're telling me that it wasn't even you. You look like you done went 12 rounds with an MMA fighter. Yeah, it sucks. So at this point, you know, he's like, look like he wants to comfort her, but, you know, Kate said something that I said not that long ago. Kate was like, no, you be with her. I mean, I was only gone for like 2 days. I apparently only broke up with you for like 2 days, and it didn't really take you that long then to run straight to Gabby. It's like, we just meant absolutely nothing. You couldn't even wait 2 weeks, a month, something. You just, the first chance you got, just said F it. And that's part of the reason why I am annoyed with Jake. Yeah, I know everyone wants Jake to be with Gabby because the stars and, you know, the fans and whatever. I get all that. But it's almost like you treated Kate like she was just, I don't want to sit there and say garbage, but just like a placeholder, you know? You just pretty much used her to try to get over Gabby. Even when she gave you outs. Multiple outs. Now, I don't know all the crap that Kate has done. So I can't sit there and be like, oh, well, you know, I kind of don't feel bad for her. I mean, I know her whole thing with Trip, and I was not happy about the way she was coming at Trip. I felt like she was acting like a damn Karen. But for the most part, I'm cool with Kate. She hasn't really done anything stupid or anything that's, like, annoyed me. Well, she hasn't done anything that annoyed me yet. So, I feel bad for her. You know? 2 days and you're already just jumping in with her like you just didn't even, like, dude, seriously? So she walks off. Gabby at this point is like, you know, you can go after her. Because, you know, that's what you want to do. Like, you know, she starts to get insecure. And, of course, she has a right to be. But Jake being Jake, it's one thing that Jake knows how to do is talk himself out of a situation or talk himself into a situation. That's exactly what he does. He clears up Gabby's fears and worries and everything like that, and now they're cool. But, you know, he wants to sit there and talk to her and be like, hey, listen, we're together, but I gotta sit there and tell her, one, I gotta make sure she's okay. Two, I gotta make sure she knows that, you know, we're over. Now, downstairs, all the chaos and everything is just going on. You know, you got Kristen being Susan, walking out the tunnels. Chloe is like, what is going on? So she starts asking a bunch of questions. She starts asking a bunch of questions, and of course Kristen tries to talk her way out of this. Kate walks in. Kate's like, yep, that's Kristen, and if you're not careful, she will pretty much snap you like a damn twig, because she's an Amazon. After she convinces, after she starts to convince Chloe that, you know, it's really Kristen, you know, Chloe's like, yeah, you know, all those times you kept sitting there being all mean to me and just overprotective of Brady and everything like that. And that's when Kristen's like, well, it's a shame, because now you decide to actually develop a couple of brain cells. And then she, you know, grabs Chloe. I'm sitting there thinking, girl, you may need to take some self-defense classes, because you are just useless. You are absolutely useless. Now, I know the soap operas don't exactly have the best, you know, coordination when it comes to us fighting and stuff like that, but there's points there's points where phones are ringing, because you got John and Marlena. They know that Kristen isn't, you know, that Kristen's out and that Susan's in Stateville. I was going to say Pentonville, but she's in jail. So this is that they're trying to get a hold of both of them. They're trying to trick her to coming to the hospital. Nothing worse. Now you got 2 or 3 phones that's going on. You have Sammy's phone, you have Chloe's phone, you have Kristen's phone, you know, and, you know, because Kate's out of it. You know, Kate's like, how many people did you kidnap so far? Now granted, Kristen has enough strength to restrain Chloe, which weighs probably just as much as her, has enough strength to restrain her, and yet check phones. Like, oh, well, that's John. I don't want to answer that. That's Marlena. I don't want to answer that. It was just like, sweetheart, you know, listen, if you get out of this alive, maybe you should take some self-defense classes, because that was just terrible, okay? And at one point, she actually gets out of her hole, you know, she doesn't get out of it, she throws her, and she has to fire poker, because at this point, you know, Kate is like, I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to see what's going on, and Chris was like, no, you're not going anywhere. And Chloe's like, what are you going to do? You're going to bash both of our brains in? And Kristen's like, well, why not? She's drugged up, and you might as well be, because you're just you at this point. So, when Jake comes downstairs, he sees Chloe on the ground. He sees Kate on the ground. Chloe is tied up in the back of the trunk of a car, and Kristen is about to take her to who knows where. Because, and you know the sad part is that I don't even feel bad for Chloe at this point. I really, really don't. Because you went after someone who was in a relationship with someone else, who was extremely dangerous on a good day, broke out of prison, had a gun to your head, and then you're still just like, well, she's in Stateville, so I'll be fine. Like, seriously? Are you kidding me? You went after this man knowing that this woman put a gun on you. Yeah, no, whatever happens to you, I'm gonna be honest, I really don't care. And yeah, at this point, because Kristen is so much of a danger, John has a bad feeling, because they can't get a hold of Kristen or being Susan. They can't get a hold of Sammy. So, they finally convinced Brady, because Brady's like, listen, if I can talk to her, whatever. And one of them is like, yo, listen, this isn't an option anymore. Kristen will hurt someone. We're good people. We can't let that happen. So Brady's like, all right, fine, make the call. I don't, you know what? I don't understand Brady too much. I really don't. I know I always sit there and call him a moron. But, yeah. So he finally agrees. Now, downstairs, you got Sammy, you got Lucas. They're trapped together. And they get into an argument. At one point, Lucas blames Sammy for this whole thing. As far as, the mother, his mother being like, like could be dead or hurt or anything like that. Like, oh, you didn't sit there and tell the cops. I was like, bro, weren't you just not in a police station like the other day and you didn't sit there and tell Rafe all the information? But you want to sit there and put everything on Sammy? Nah, bro. Nah, you gotta share some of that donkey. Okay? Some of that is on you. Okay? They get into an argument back and forth. They talk about EJ. They talk about events that happen as far as, Lucas being trapped under a beam or something like that, and EJ being like, hey, listen, I'll help him, but, Sammy, you gotta do something for me first, And just talking about how much of a scumbag that he is, all the sacrifices that Sammy has made. I just, Sammy sits there and tries to defend this guy, EJ, and, listen, I don't know what they were like. I know people sit there and, even Brock TV, when he did reviews on Days, and maybe sometimes every once in a while when he does them, I remember one he was talking about how they were a hot couple and stuff like that, and they were great together. And, listen, they might have been great at one point, but the way Sammy describes her relationship with EJ, it just seems toxic. It seems bad for her, and it seems like she is wasting her life, wasting her time on a man that doesn't really appreciate her. And she's doing it because at one point they loved each other, and at one point, I guess they have kids or whatever. Because I love when she used the fact, oh, he's the father of my children. It's like, yeah, okay, sure, that works. And, like, nowhere. And of course, Lucas is like, well, so am I. One thing leads to another, they start making out. So, I wonder if they're actually going to bring EJ into this whole thing. One of the things that's been a very common problem with this show is, I guess, this guy named Ron. And how he's a bad writer. He doesn't really listen to the fans, and he kind of just does whatever he wants, regardless of what the fans want. So, he's toxic to the show. And I don't know if he's actually going to listen, because here's the thing. I want them to bring in this EJ guy. Listen, I get it. It was great for everyone who watched it. I'm a newcomer, so I want to see who this EJ guy is. I want to see what he's going to bring to the table. If they got to replace him, hopefully they don't. But if they do, I just want to see this guy in action. I want to see what makes him so special in Sammy's eyes. This way I can sit there and at least try to understand where she's coming from. To some extent. At the end of the day, you're in a relationship that's not working out for you. And you are choosing to be there because you are pig-headed and just a bunch of other things that I don't think I want to get into. But it is what it is. I think that's about it. With that being said, I'm going to go. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. What this whole thing. Days was an actual good episode today. Days was a better episode than GH. And it's so weird for me to sit there and say that because I've been watching GH since 2001? I said 2001. Been watching that show for a very long time. And listen, when they're hot, they're hot. And when they're just average or just a little bit below average, it's like, wow. I'm new to this whole Days thing, but I gotta sit there and tell you the last couple of episodes have actually been good. It's been good. It's been one of those things. It's like I watched GH and I was like, wow, that was an episode. It was an hour long. And that's cool. And you see something like today's episode. I'm like, this was actually good. This was a good Cliffhanger Friday. And I'm looking at GH and I'm like, so, you want to tell me where you guys messed up? Now, in GH's defense, to some extent, certain episodes didn't play on certain days because, well, the news and everything like that. But with that being said, I think every episode should be odd. I think every episode should actually be either an amazing episode or a really good episode, at the very least. I get it. It's 7 days. It's 5 days a week. It's a new episode every day. But come on, don't get me wrong. Days every now and then we'll have some episodes that's just like whatever. But they've been good. So hopefully they keep up with that streak. And unfortunately, I know at some point they're gonna have to sit there and show trash Ash now. But you know, it is what it is. And yes, I've been rambling way too long, so with that being said, I'm going to go. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Catch you in the next video.